La for, hit for none. All the time, la for, hit for none. For Islam stand for peace. La for, hit for none. For Islam stand for peace.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May the peace and blessings of God be upon us all. You are welcome to MTA International Africa, and this is Real Talk Africa, where we discuss social issues and things that are relevant to you and I and to all of us. Today again in the studio, we are going to discuss a yet very important topic, and it is about moral compass. What guides our moral compass? With me to do the discussion in the studio, as usual, we have our studio audience, a very beautiful young man with me in here, and then we have our resource persons, and I would start with the introduction of my resource persons from my immediate left. He is in a person of Maulvi Hafiz Hafif Ibrahim. Maulvi, you're welcome.
Jazakallah, thank you very much.
He is the missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission, and he works at the national headquarters here in Accra, Ghana. And next to him is Brother Kekeli Jekete. Brother, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
He's also a private legal practitioner, even though he doesn't want that to be said on air a number of times. And then next, we have Brother Winner Emenyodo, who is also an insurance broker. Brother, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so as I said, it's going to be about our moral compass and how we make some decisions in our lives and what modes or what ways we use to mold our lives. You see, now in the world, people are just happy and people are okay the moment what they're doing is fine by them, and sometimes in extension maybe fine by their immediate relatives. If it doesn't hurt them anyhow, then they feel it is okay. But we're now going to discuss to see if we should have some moral compass, or we should have things to guide us through the walks of life and through our lives. As an Ahmadi missionary, I'll start with you, sir. Do you personally have some moral compass, or should there be? Is it necessary that we have something like that?
Definitely, there has to be a body of regulations that you live by. And without them, like you said in your introductory words, if people are comfortable with what makes them happy in their own spheres, in their own circles, then the interpretation of what makes you comfortable would always differ from one person to another.
Okay.
So there will be so much conflict of interest. There will be, won't be uniform, okay, in the definition of what makes us happy and what do not make us happy. So there would always be that conflict in our life. That is the reason why, as a religious person, I go by a moral compass that is, determined by the dictates of the Holy Quran of Islam in general.
All right. I think I'll take this as your introductory remarks. We would come back to the main questions. But Brother Kekeli, what do you think about this?
Yes, I do think definitely innate in every person is a moral compass. You have to have a moral compass no matter what you do. Some people call it a conscience. Some people call it a voice in your head that tells you what you're doing. No matter what you're doing, you must always have a moral compass. Where that compass comes from and how it guides you, it's what is different from person to person. As my colleague has mentioned, when you start from the religious perspective, you're already given a set of rules that guide you in the way that you are supposed to conduct yourself. Others choose not to go directly with a religious compass. They choose to stick with, if you go with hedonists, for example, they believe do what makes you happy, whatever works in the situation works for you. Nihilists believe that there's no point to the life that we're living. So in the moment, just try to be good to yourself, be good to other people, or however you want to interpret it, it is up to you. Personally, I do a bit of a combination of everything from my religious background, from my understanding of the world, the way it works as I've experienced it and everything. It provides a bit of a balance that guides me in the situations I'm involved in.
Okay. I see. And Brother, what do you also think about it?
I think everybody needs to have some form of a compass that guides your life.
Okay.
And based on backgrounds, experience, etc. Sometimes you may even think you had a compass at a point, and later you get to a point and you realize, okay, a few changes, more exposure to various things adjust the compass. So I don't think there's a definitive moral compass that is there forever, but I think that no matter who you are, even when you don't admit that there's a compass, there's something that guides you to do what you do or not to do what you don't do. So
all right. Then I would come back to Mr. Mobi Hafif Sab. Do you think our upbringing play any role in how we live our lives?
Yes, it does. Our upbringing, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, made a beautiful statement that كل مولود يولد على الفطرة. Every child is born, to the constitution of nature. You're born pure, right? Then he says, فَأَبَوَاهُ يُهَوِّدَانِهِ أَوْ يُنَصِّرَانِهِ أَوْ يُمَجِّسَانِهِ. It is the parents of the child that makes him a Jew or a Christian, a Muslim, or an idol worshipper. The parents, the sort of upbringing they give to you determines who you become in the future. And so our upbringing is very much instrumental in what will become our thinking. That is the reason why most Christians that you find today, their parents are Christians. Most Muslims have Muslim parents. There are a few who reach maturity, then they get to learn further about their religion, they get to learn further about their moral values, and they think that, no, it's about time I drop this and pick this other quality. But really, our parents have so much, our upbringing has so much impact on who will become in the future.
I see, and that's very, very well put. But now, let me come back here and we're going to delve into it more, and it's going to be a bit more personal. Do you think I'll start with you, Brother Kekeli. Do you think that it is right to do whatever you do, but to achieve, the purpose is there, but for you to achieve the purpose, doing whatever you do to achieve that purpose?
Okay, thank you. I think I'll preface this by saying, first of all, that I understand I speak from privilege. So someone listening might say, who they own him, right? I understand that. But you see, I've always held a belief that there's a certain point of desperation where right and wrong becomes what puts food in your stomach, right? There's a certain point of desperation where if you're not careful, what you use to determine right and wrong is what puts food in your stomach. I pray that most people never reach that point. And I pray that most people have the strength to resist that temptation, to do anything and everything to put food in their stomach, or maybe if there's someone you care about, put food in the stomach of another person. But purely on a moral basis, you can't say that because you strive to achieve success, you would go out of your way, and whatever wrong comes your way, you are blind to the fact that it is wrong. You would do what you want to do. If we lived in such a society, we would retrogress ourselves back into anarchy. The thief feels that he needs your food to survive. Not just food, things that he doesn't actually need to survive. Now somebody will say, no, that is what he will use to survive. If you drive on your road, somebody will say that he has to get to his office first. So he will cross, he will run the lights, you do everything. We will run into so many accidents, and so many different things would happen in society that we will not be able to handle them, right? There would be sexual indiscipline, there would be so many things on different parts, in different aspects of our lives, which would create very serious problems for all of us. For the sake of order and the progress of our society, we have decided that, okay, these are the dictates that we shall live by. Moral rules and even religion, they are never meant necessarily just to cage you, but they are sort of as the rules that, okay, if we stand by these rules to the very best of our ability, society will go for it. That's why you notice that a lot of times in the religions, other than issues of ritual and worship, the question around how you treat each other, a lot of the things are standard. A lot of the things maintain themselves because there's an understanding that it is these things that will create the best environment for our society to grow. So yes, there are people who make the arguments that do what you need to do to go somewhere. A friend of mine will tell you, use what you have to get what you want.
Okay.
But that's a very dangerous way to live for all of us. Yeah.
All right. Brother Winner, what's your take on it? This growing trend of people doing whatever they need to do to achieve their goal.
I think the dynamics of those stuff are mostly premised on various reasons. Sometimes, especially experience. People's various experiences, people's background, influence when they come to a point to say, do whatever you need to do to get. And also, we are also talking, I think a little bit of the media is also a part of it. We may downplay that, but sometimes the kind of things that are put across, the kind of stories we hear, the kind of agenda setting that is put across in and around, make people feel that, okay, if person A has done this and nobody thinks it's any big deal, then no problem. I could also just do it and then it's not any big deal. Besides, why should this person do it and it's fine? And I do it and because I'm born here, so this is the case. So I think the dynamics differ and that is the case because of some of these things.
All right, I see.
If I can just make an input here.
Feel free.
Yeah, I think that society, religious bodies, and even the various governments have a responsibility in stopping this problem, because you see the definition of success is usually not set rightly, because if you're achieving a certain success at the cost of somebody's life, at the cost of somebody's livelihood, then that is problematic. Okay. And so religious bodies specifically need to make that effort to teach the youth, especially, what success should mean. If I should achieve success by taking from another person, and he then suffers, he doesn't have what to eat, and I'm enjoying that, that cannot possibly be success. And I believe that all religions teach that we cannot enjoy at the expense of others, success, So we have a responsibility as religious bodies to do that education.
Okay. So as you were talking about this, I was even thinking, what at all is success? Is success buying a number of, I would say, a fleet of cars or building mansions, or what actually is success? That would be a question for another day. There is this growing trend of gambling in different phases, different, I don't want to mention any name so that these legal guys will not come after us. But we all know these things, and it has been made so beautiful by the media and some other groups. So what do you think, I'll start with you, what do you think is the future of our country, especially the youth like us, if this trend goes on? In fact, about the whole gambling thing, what do you think about it? Is that a necessary evil, or is necessary not even evil at all?
I would say that there are various, you can look at this issue of gambling from various points of thoughts, but I would say from one point, you're looking at it in terms of people are looking to do anything to survive. I mean, you say I should work or to be able to make money. Don't just sit down. And if you keep sitting down, then you'll not get enough to be able to live. So I've kept looking for jobs, blah, 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 I can't get. And I hear that you can do this little thing to be able to make a little. Let me just borrow and do. And those are some people. Then there are others that are just doing it to get more. I have enough money, but okay, there's a chance I can get more, so let me put it in. All of this is to say, again, if I stick to my Christian standpoint, then you're going to say, yes, don't gamble and all that, and which is true from that standpoint. And then again, various things, you'd be surprised. If you're not empathetic towards people to try to understand, you'd always be scolding, and most often than not, from my experience, always shouting, scolding. It mostly doesn't solve a lot of problems. In fact, more often than not, it pushes people to keep going further. So for example, when we are younger, you're told, don't do. And I think that's one of the problems I personally have with, let me in quotes put it, with religion generally. So we are told, don't do, but there's no proper explanation. We've gotten to a stage and age, in today's day and age, to be very honest, even the littlest of kids, for lack of a better term, wants to understand why. Don't touch this, why? If you can't give me a why, I could as well just check it out and know what is the business. If I get bent, no problem, then I learn for myself. Unfortunately, a lot of No hard feelings or no pointing of fingers to parents or anybody, but that has been the parenting from a long time, that don't do. And if you ask daddy or mommy why, don't ask me why. And so I don't understand why I'm not supposed to do, but I still don't have to do it. No problem. I go to school and my friend is doing it. And some way, somehow, he's like, there's nothing. Maybe from where he comes from, there's nothing. I come back home saying, no. After a while, at some point too, when you come to those people, I spend more time at school with my friends. It's just a matter of time that I pick up that habit. When you are not there, my daddy's not there, my mom is not there, I'm gonna check it out. So I'm of the view that the Bible says something, I'll stay with the Bible and say that it says train up a child in Proverbs, train up a child the way he should be so that when he goes, he will not depart from it. Training is also a term. It means, unfortunately, one of the things we do is that we superimpose our ideas on people. I say don't do it that way. Why? No, don't ask me why. We need to have a basic. Explain. So it means that if you don't know the why, you need to be trying to understand the why as a person. So that when you're trying to tell someone not to do or to do, there's a basis. There's this theory about, I'll end with that theory, about living life on the basis of, I've forgotten the name of the theory, but it's about benefits and non-benefits. No. It's similar to uses and gratifications theory, but basically it talks about the fact that people do stuff or engage in stuff to the extent to which they benefit. So, if you're going to tell me not to do something, I must know what's in it for me. I think, again, I'll borrow the term of innate. It's in everybody. I mean, I should know why I shouldn't be doing this. If I can't get any basis, two things. I either make up my mind that, okay, I'm not going to do it at all. I really don't want to know what the pros and cons are, or I check it out for myself. So don't fornicate. What's the basis, blah, 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 up until, unfortunately, in quotes, up until the guy gets HIV and it's killing his life, no basis.
In a case of I'm still coming back to the gambling thing. In the case of gambling, is it the same? Like, is it as if we do not know that maybe it would probably, because the argument of people is that it would make people lazy, it would cause us not to be that productive, and so what do we say about that? That's with the gambling specifically.
I think, sorry,
no problem, go ahead.
So I think my concern with gambling is more with regards to addiction more than anything, to be honest, because I am yet to find anybody who relies solely on gambling for how they live, right? The only people I know that do that are people online who sell codes. They sell the odds to people for them. That one, you can see the person's whole life revolves around gambling. But for most other people, I know that have gambled. Honestly, I'll say that I can't work the thing. So gambling for me is a little hard. But my concern with gambling, so other than the addiction, you see, whenever this conversation comes up here, I feel it's very easy for us to have a narrow understanding of who gambles.
Okay.
Last year, or was it 2 years ago, I had a colleague at my old place, a father of two, right? He comes to work one Monday, says, actually, Real Madrid 1 year, they cry, Mohammed. Say, why?
Sorry, just a minute. For our international viewers, it means that Real Madrid did not do well at all. They really disturbed him.
I said, why? He said, they lost their game. He has book, he's using it to buy Cerelac and things for home. That right now, they've disturbed him. You understand? And he made me realize that people are genuinely using gambling to support families. You understand? People are using gambling. It's such a crazy idea to me that people are properly using gambling to support families. Now, with people of this nature, you know that and you see, because gambling provides such magnificent odds, if you tell me I can use 5 cedis to get 7,000, there isn't a lot.
Yes. What is 5 cedis?
Honestly.
But the end result, 7,000
But my concern, and that's where the addiction comes up, because you see, I have sat with a friend of mine, I kid you not, I think he won a little around 2,000 cedis. And because of the greed, putting back. He lost the original amount he had put in. I kid you not, I was seated by him and I kept saying, it's okay.
At least cash out.
He said, no, it can go. It was a new game they had put online, one of these new games.
Okay.
Right, and he kept going. So my concern when it comes to gambling is that One, because of its economic benefits, for a lot of people, its morality is questionable, right? In the sense that for a lot of people, there isn't such a thing as blanket morality when it comes to gambling. Because the whole issue is, okay, it is economically viable and it assists a lot of people, right? Two, a lot of people feel that if indeed it was such a problem, why is there now a tax on winnings? Because clearly you want to also benefit from what is going on, right? So when it comes to the moral compass part of it, I would say that personally for my moral compass, it's not so ticked off by gambling. The only thing that affects when it comes to gambling is inexperience. Personally, it's inexperience. That's the only thing. I can't work it. I can't work the odds. They'll tell you first corner, first this, first, I don't know. And at 2.5 and all that. I don't know how it works, right? So I think that's my main concern, that when it comes to the addictive nature of it, it creates a huge problem. And maybe for the sake of the addictive nature, that is why there's a need for us to take it away. Before you see people be selling their family homes and things.
The missionary is coming in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I understand it from your perspective.
Yeah.
The Holy Quran very clearly says gambling is not allowed.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. And the Holy Quran also gives a reason why it is not allowed.
Okay.
The Holy Quran says, إثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. Okay, يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر. That they ask you about alcohol and gambling. And God is telling the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reply them that both of them, alcohol and gambling, they have some benefits too, but they have some evil also. The problem is that their evil outweighs the benefit. Okay. And this is the basis in religion for disallowing the practice of anything. Why are the evils in these things, we're specifically talking about gambling, why is it that the evil is more than the good? Just imagine those who are into that business, right? I create a platform for you. 100 people are playing the game, 5 CDs each, right? And at the end of the day, one person is winning. Maybe he's winning 40 CDs. 99 other people have lost money.
Yes. There's a principle.
And just one person has won.
It's called the house always wins.
Exactly.
The house, okay.
And even the company that is giving you the platform is gaining some profit. That's why they're doing it. More new platforms are, are coming up on social media, some various platforms, for gambling. So it causes more harm than good. You just give the example of that. Gambling actually, and this is the reason why in Islam particularly, it's not allowed. It's non-negotiable. You cannot do it. And if you do it, it is sinful because the evil in it outweighs. It's just like when two people agree based on consensus that we're going to play a game shooting at each other with guns.
Like real guns? Or?
Yes, like real guns. It's based on consensus, right? The person who is able to shoot the other first, he takes his property. Now, if we do that and I win, the police will still come after me, even though I killed him based on consensus. So gambling is like we have a consensus to steal from each other.
That's an interesting.
So it cannot be acceptable on religious basis. There is no negotiation, and we say haram. That means it's
forbidden. Yeah,
it is actually forbidden.
Yeah. All right. This is getting very interesting here. But as I said earlier, we're not just the four of us discussing this. We have our studio audience, and I would like to involve them at this particular point. If there's anyone who has any question, the person can bring it up so that we address it. Yeah.
Malik Asopia. So, at what point, or when you get to a point where you know that this particular thing you are supposed to do, for example, you get into a new office, you particularly know that, you just got this work fresh, and as a young guy, you are seeking to do something for yourself at your new workplace. Your moral compass actually guides you to what is right and wrong, and you know really well. And now you find yourself in a position where you have to do something that you know particularly that this is wrong. How do you handle this situation?
It gives you benefits.
Exactly. So,
okay.
At the long shell, it's actually at the office where you benefit from.
Okay.
You get paid for, but you know exactly that this particular thing you are doing is against your moral compass. How do you handle this particular situation?
Okay.
I think I can give a scenario of what he's saying. So you're a young lawyer, right? You just entered into a firm. As for you, you have sworn that you will never do some kinds of cases. But now there's no work. Work is not available. You've entered into a firm. And the case that you swore before heaven and earth you will never do, it is right in front of you and you have to do. Where does your moral compass come in? And this is something that confronted me not long ago. It happened. We're representing a client that I looked at the matter and said, no, this is very bad. I would say, unfortunately, I took the immoral route. I'm not going to lie. Because me, in truth, in that scenario, I didn't have a choice. Right? I was assigned to do research. I did the research and I submitted my research. I had to do it. But in totality of the thing, it wasn't particularly a moral, in my opinion. The person we're representing was not exactly in a strong moral standpoint, right? They will tell you that as far as our job is not to assess the morality, ours is to do the work for the client and go away. But a lot of times it conflicts with your inner compass. I would say that in such a situation, you have to assess whether, one, is it indeed the case that you have to do it or not? Because a lot of times, it's not that you have to, it just so happens that everybody in the office is doing it. And for the sake of camaraderie and ensuring that your position in the office is protected, you would do it. If you don't have to do it, you can always find a way to step back from it. And then even if you have to do it, there's the question of to what extent do you have to do it? So for example, you are working in an office, there has been a sexual harassment complaint against one of the men in the office, and all the men come together and say, we are not talking to the women again. You just came into the office, so you, because of office politics, you don't want to do like you're against the men, otherwise they will ostracize you, right? The question then becomes, to what extent do you have to participate in such a thing? It is innately and inherently wrong. You should never participate in any such thing to the best of your ability. So with that one, the question is, clearly you don't have to, right? So you can take a step back from it. If it was a situation where you feel like you have to, the question is, to what extent do you have to? If you feel that you can do the barest minimum and walk away from the thing, sure. If you're in a position where you can talk to your superior or someone around you as to the morality of what you are doing, sure. If that is if they are the type of person to listen, then yes, sure, you can do that. If your hands are bound, then that one, I think it comes to the severity of the thing. Because there are certain things that are moral and certain things are immoral, but Christians, we are taught that all wrong is wrong. Regardless, all the hell is one. But in our real life living, we understand that there are variations between wrongs, right? There are some wrongs where you look at the repercussions, you can essentially ignore them a bit. But there are certain wrongs that
it will make you sleep at night.
Exactly. They are very, 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 very serious. So you know the person is an innocent person, you're putting an innocent person in jail, that type of thing. You know there's something that you need to do about that. If it is something that weighs heavily on your conscience, meaning the wrong is so bad, I would still stand on you withdrawing yourself. If it is something that doesn't weigh too much on your conscience, it's not that big a deal. Unless maybe you yourself, your conscience is questionable. But if it is something that doesn't weigh so much on your conscience, I would go the route of, yeah, you can allow it sometimes.
Missionary Sir, please tell us something about this particular thing where your moral compass would, collude with what you have to do in the office, and you need to survive. What do you do in that case?
Yes, so in religion, the Quran teaches us something, a guideline of what to determine if an action you're going to take is right or wrong. And the second Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has written extensively on this. So that anything at all you're going to do, like in this situation, ask yourself first that what I'm doing, after having done it, do I earn the pleasure of God or not? You should question yourself. Who am I doing it for? And even after doing it or resisting from doing it, ask yourself whether the consequence of what you have just done. So religion teaches us to sort of think through things before doing. And it always depends on the strength of your faith. What does religion say in this situation? You should not. If your conscience, your moral compass is clearly telling you this is wrong, then you must avoid it. But of course, even people who are linked to one religion or the other would find themselves wanting. He wants to survive. He just suffered, and after 7 years, he's got a job. So it's difficult. But really, we believe, it's our belief that as a religious person, when you take that hard decision, God doesn't leave you alone. Okay. And there are numerous examples where, for example, Muslim women are supposed to live according to certain standards. She finds a job somewhere, and they say, you don't have to wear the veil, okay? She needs the job so badly, but at the same time, it's her religious teaching. She has to necessarily dress with loose clothes, and she shouldn't expose certain parts of her body. So she says, okay, I have to take that strong decision because I am a Muslim. She does that, and the result is that within, the flick of a finger, some other opportunity is opened, and she gets a job even better. So we have such incidents, but it depends largely on your faith. How religious is that individual? But you should always decide if your conscience is warning you that it is bad. I mean, why would you want to involve in that? But that depends on your faith.
All right. I think that would be. You should consult your conscience and see. I think there's another question here, brother.
I wanted to ask our missionary here that we're speaking about gambling.
Okay.
And there's another thing called lottery, like American lottery, Canadian lottery. Let's say you take someone in Ghana here.
Okay.
Probably things are hard for you in Ghana here. You've seen an opportunity to go outside, be it US, Germany, Canada, so that you could make some ends meet. But you have to do it through lottery. And in Islam too, we are saying gambling is haram. So in this case, what do you do?
Missionary.
So yes, it depends on. I want to have a good understanding of what that kind of American lottery is. Okay. What are the rules of the game? You apply.
Everybody applies, and then the State Department randomly selects, and the people they select are given a visa.
No, in this case, of course, you're not taking anybody's right. Okay. There's usually a misunderstanding of what corruption is. And the fourth caliph defined corruption very beautifully. That you cannot say, or bribery rather, you cannot say you are bribing somebody. For example, it's your right to get certain thing, but somebody is stopping you. Okay, like the Ahmadiyya Muslims in Pakistan. You cannot, because you're an Ahmadiyya Muslim, you cannot get certain rights until you bribe the official involved. The law says these rights shouldn't be given to Ahmadi Muslims. Now, if you want the right given to you, it is your right. You have to pay him something. In that case, you are not bribing him. Bribery, according to our understanding, is if you are, by giving that incentive, you are depriving another person of his right. But in this case, it was already mine. I'm just paying my way through to get it. So in this case, by applying for such American lottery, which just wins you a visa to America to work there, do whatever thing. If you're doing that and you're not depriving another person of his rights, then that is not gambling according to what the Quran says. Gambling is when you do that and then by so doing you deprive another person of their right. It then becomes gambling. So that difference needs to be cleared.
My only concern is that with this whole business of paying to facilitate something, your ease of access to something, if we do it becomes a situation where everybody now has to pay. And we end up, in my opinion, taking away the rights of people who cannot pay now. Do you get it? So we are saying that, okay, because if I'm paying the police officer to go, I haven't taken away anybody's rights, right? So many of us end up paying. Now the police start to expect the money from everybody. If they expect the money from everybody, then there comes somebody who cannot pay.
And then it becomes a problem.
Eventually he will go, but now a huge chunk of his time is being taken, right? So that is where my concern is. And I feel also as an...
I want to agree with you, but there's a bit of a difference between the two situations. Okay, I referred to the Ahmadiyya situation in Pakistan. Okay, so in Pakistan, for example, if you need, say, a passport on the passport, certain things are written. And if you belong to this Ahmadiyya Muslim community, you must necessarily accept, okay, that would be a lie. Accept that the founder of the Ahmadiyya community is, God forbid, a liar. If you accept, then you're giving the passport.
Okay.
If you don't accept, you have to get that written, a certain tag giving you, and that is written on your passport. That makes that it's a sort of danger for you.
It gives you restrictions.
Restrictions.
Yeah.
Because if you have that on your passport, you're going around, anybody can attack you. That is the situation of Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Pakistan. Right? It's a minority community, and there's persecution. Okay. The other Muslims believe that Ahmadis are not Muslims. So under such circumstances, it's a matter of life and death. And under such extreme situations, if you don't have any other option, then you can go ahead and do that. Muslims are not allowed to eat pork. But if you are dying, and you're a Muslim, and you say, I won't eat the pork and die, God will punish you for that. Because at that point, pork is your means of survival. Living is preferred, is given preference, than obeying that injunction of religion. So it's a matter of life and death. It's a matter of security that you have to take, not just on normal daily. Yes. Okay. So there's that slim difference between the two. Okay.
I see. There's one thing which I think I'll start from, brother Winasa. There's this issue about, that's another part of gambling, but this side, it has to do with cyber, crime, where people extort money. Should I even call it extortion? Because it's okay. So they scam people and get money. From our part of the world, people think this act is justified. What they say is that in the olden days, we were in our country with a lot of gold. These people came here, stole our gold away, and they've enriched themselves. Now, we are smart, and so we're going to play them by their own game and get our gold back. That is, we're going to scam them, use different means, and get our money back. This, what do you say about it, considering your moral compass in question?
I think what I have to say about this is, will be summarized in one statement. 2 wrongs don't make a right, give or take. Yes, we agree that they might have done certain evil in the past. Then where lies your morality? Where lies your preaching, in quotes, that everybody should do right? When you had the opportunity, in the same position, you did exactly what you claim what they did was terrible to you. Now you had the chance, you've done the same thing. Then it becomes a cycle that continues and never ends. A vicious
so their
cycle.
grandchildren would also come and
everybody would justify. It's as simple as
yes,
that. There's always a way to rationalize and justify. So at some point, if you're going to be on the God side, in quotes, religious, blah, blah, then at some point you need to sit down and say, yes, we agree. When you think about it on a rational level, most of those things will always make sense. But to what end? To what end? You're looking at society on a larger scale, etc. It means it's going to continue for generations if we are all supposed to go by what you're doing. But if you look at it from this angle, then you should just look at it. And sometimes that's where we are looking at religion. And there is people like Jesus Christ, Muhammad, etc. They did sacrifices. There are stuff they could have also enjoyed. And then some of us will not have benefited today. But they had to make some of these sacrifices so that some people, in the longer run, come to benefit. So that's what my take is on that issue.
I see.
First of all, I don't even think the explanation is logical in the first place. I think it's the most dishonest. It's one of those things that if we are doing wrong, we are doing wrong. Let's be honest. If we are doing wrong, we are doing wrong.
Blame it on someone.
But this whole business of, they took... And the reason I say that is that the people who do the reverse cybersecurity experts, they couldn't care less whether it is an African American, it is an African, a Caucasian. It could be your fellow Ghanaian. Maybe you've got a small visa for your mother is gone, she's abroad. They will scam your mother. So that was the explanation. What did your mother take from them?
It was in their land, enjoying their facilities.
Or by association, they're all guilty.
Yeah, probably.
No.
Exactly.
I think because cyber scams are very, very serious. When you look at cases around them and everything, I guess they are even the greatest example of what our colleague is saying about robbing another person, right? Because people have given up their life savings. Their lives, things that they've worked all their lives for, they've given up their life savings, they've put their families into debt, they've done serious things, all on the premise or belief of being kind to another person, expressing affection to another person, right? So regardless, so I'll borrow from him too, with regards to the two wrongs to make a right. Regardless of what the basis is, or regardless of who the person is, or at the very least, we should all be in a society where if I'm texting someone, I know that's the person that I'm actually texting to do whatever we need to do. That's one. Two, it's not as if these people are the most altruistic people that I'm yet to see a reverse cybersecurity expert that has come and is just distributing money to people. The most you see is in traffic, then you spray money on small boys. Or at some party, then you spray money on his fellow reverse cybersecurity experts.
The missionary, what do you have to tell us?
I think I agree wholly with what both colleagues, panelists have said. I totally agree with that. I so badly wanted to make the last point he made. The fact that when they take those monies, they don't hand it to the state. They don't use it to build schools. They don't use it to develop our roads, in the rural areas. They lavishly, spend it and all of that. So really, it's just an excuse. There is no basis to that.
Okay, my dear audience, if you have a question, please, you can go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abeku. I don't know if I'm permitted to go back to the gambling. I had a question on that. You made reference to certain instances where people can sort of depart from their moral compass. I got the impression that you were talking about necessary evils. Are you, by the examples you gave, suggesting that we can, at some point, depart from our moral compass for the sake of our survival? For example, when you make reference to the case in Pakistan, and it was solely based on defending yourself, your own security, and it appeared that what would be described as gambling, or bribery, can be done just so you can survive. So that's the first one, whether there are instances where we can depart from a moral compass. Now to lawyer Kekeli, even though he doesn't want that identity, I want to know whether there are instances where law and morality disagree, because the profession you belong to prides itself with a certain standard of living, a certain standard of nobility, which is founded on morals. Now, this is actually based on an experience. The very first time I visited a courtroom, I was in senior high school. My government class, we went to the Kumasi High Court. The court was in session. One of the lawyers who was speaking was a Roman sister, and then a lawyer. And then it was a criminal matter. So I had the opportunity of speaking to her. The very first question I asked her, how are you a Roman sister and a lawyer at the same time? Why are you doing a criminal matter? Because in my mind, the person who has been brought is an accused person and is probably guilty of something. Her response was that, first of all people are innocent until proven guilty. That was the very first time I became aware of that phrase. That was what she said. And then she said again that I am a Roman sister, yes, but I have a duty to protect people. So that is what I am doing. And it was very true, because I thought, at the time, there's this perception that lawyers lie and lawyers are not honest people and all of that. So I am curious to know whether law and morality agree and disagree. And also, when it comes to, for example, sexual offenses, in a moral environment, that conversation cannot even be had. However, legally, you just need to attain a certain age and obtain consent from the other party and do it. But in a moral environment, you cannot have that conversation. It is not something you can do. So does the law disagree with morality in certain instances?
Yes, so, brother, I think that the point I made was misunderstood. I am by no means saying that it is justifiable to go, contrary to your moral compass, to survive. No, that's not the point I'm making. The point I was making is that the definition of what is a bribe, as far as we are concerned, as Muslims, okay, is that you are offering an incentive, And by so doing, you are depriving another person of their right. So if this is the situation, then it is termed as bribery. But if by offering that incentive, you do not cause harm to another, it is not referred as bribery. Yes, depending on the situation, there may be other challenges like a lawyer referred, okay? But that is another discussion. We're just talking about, I was just referring to the definition of bribery, what bribery is and what bribery is not, okay? So that kind of offering incentives to people to pave your way through, within which context is it permissible, within which context is it not permissible, that is a different matter. And I did clarify that it is only permissible in the case of the scenario I presented. Okay, you do that or you die. So it's a matter of life and death. So well, like I said, the definition is not bribery in the first place. Okay, so it's just the issue of whether the context in which you're doing it is right or wrong.
Funny enough, I am no Muslim expert, but funny enough, I think there's another way to differentiate between what he's saying and gambling, in that with all the instances he gave, it's assured that your survival is essentially assured, right? So for the Pakistanis, they had to pay to ensure their survival. You're eating pork to ensure your survival. Gambling, it is not assured. So you see, you are let's say you are down, you've lost extreme amount of money. You are lost, you don't know what to do. You have your last 2 cedis. You betting your 2 cedis is not assured that you are going to make it. I've seen people lose money to the most sure games in the world. The game that you know, as for this one, no matter what, they are winning. Then white man will show you something, right? So
just before you answer your own question, just one last point is that you're maintaining that is a deviation from your moral compass. I do not agree with that, because at this place, your moral compass will tell you the greater good is to live. Are you getting the point? The greater good is to survive, to be alive, to do more good than to die, right? Your life could be beneficial to other people. So your moral compass is still in line. You're not deviating from it. That is what makes the difference.
All right, the conversation is getting interesting and is getting more involving, and that is what we want. We would go to our brother lawyer here for him to answer the question about the law, and afterwards we would go to our social media to take what they also have to say. Please.
So the first part, is law the same as morality? No. You learn this in first year law school, basic legal system. They'll tell you that law and morality are not the same. In as much as a lot of the laws are drawn from morality, there are lots of things that are legal that are wrong. And there are a lot of things that are illegal and you would argue are not necessarily wrong, right? The best example I like to use is adultery.
Okay.
Adultery is not a crime. At no point has adultery ever been a crime. But I think we can all agree that adultery is immoral. It's a moral thing, and it's an immoral thing to do. But as it stands, adultery, the law does not encourage adultery, yes, but it is not a crime for you to step outside of your marriage. So the law and morality, no, they are not the same. Now, what the law tries to do is that, because the law is made for both the moral person and the immoral person, right? The law is made for the Christian and the Muslim. It's made for the traditionalist, it's made for all of us. It is made for the non-believer as well. What the law seeks to do is to condense everybody's morality into one, and on that basis, apply it equally to everybody. Because if the law was morality, and morality is subjective, then we have a problem. Right? I can use the most basic question of polygamy between the two main religions, Christianity and Islam. In Islam, polygamy is allowed, right? Christianity, it is not allowed. Okay. If we were to leave that to a merely moral question, we would have a concern as to validity of marriages. So now the position of the law is that depending on the type of marriage and whether or not you can add additional wives to your marriage. So that deals with the morality and the law parts. The second question being about the profession itself. We like to say the noble profession, the noble profession, the noble profession. There are a number of principles that underpin the profession, and these principles work similar to what you said about the weighing of good and evil. Founding father, one of the founding fathers of America, John Adams, he wrote that the law will do better, or society will do better, if the law spends more time ensuring that innocent people are not put in jail, as against finding stronger punishments for guilty people. And you see that a lot in our society. We are very concerned with punishing people, but not so much with ensuring that innocent people are not put behind bars, which is why we have the presumption of innocence under Article 14. That's a lie, Article 19, right? That's why we have the presumption of innocence, that for the sake of the fact that let's start everybody off on a common basis, that once you've been accused of something, we are supposed to presume you are innocent. That's the main thing. We are presuming you are innocent. We need to lead evidence to show that indeed you did it. So you have people argue with you that, oh, how can you represent such? How can? Fundamentally, we are all innocent until proven guilty. That's one. Two, which is funny because I read this yesterday. One of the judges wrote something about access to the courts, that it is the underpinning of a functioning society, that people must have access to courts, right? To be able to air out their grievances and deal with the things that come before them. What that means is that everybody's entitled to representation. Every single person, no matter how bad you think the person is. I remember some boys were accused of raping one of the students in tech at the time, and their lawyer was interviewed. And people were so angry, how can you represent such people? How can you represent such, how can all that? Everybody's entitled to representation. We also need to remember that, one, the point of the court is a fact-finding mission. The court is supposed to find the facts of the matter. What you hear first does not mean that that is the truth. Okay. I think that there's a verse in Proverbs of the Bible about that the person, yes, he who brings his case first always sounds right. So we need to call the other person to come. Then we hear the other person. So it is our duty to facilitate that process. Where the issue comes in, or where your moral compass comes in, is where you are in a position to know the truth of the matter. And then you have to decide for yourself, are you doing it or you are not doing it? And it is more nuanced than you think. Sometimes it is that, yes, the person did it, but how much should the person pay for it? There are people who say, yes, there are times we deal with people who say, okay, I can't divulge things I've done it. But yes, there are times you deal with people who say, yes, I did it. The question is, how much are they paying? Okay. There are times you deal with people who say, yes, I committed a crime, but my Lord, can we reduce the number of years for the person? Right? There are times somebody will say, yes, I owe you money, but the argument is to interest. How much will we pay in interest? Somebody will say, I paid you in dollars, pay me the dollar rate at the time I gave you the money. Or, usually I'll tell you that me, because I know the dollar rate was better then, I'll say, no, I want to pay you at the time. The person too, because he knows that the dollar has increased now, he's telling that, no, give me the physical cash. Because it's more valuable now. So there's a lot of nuance when it comes to representation. And usually when you deal with these nuanced things, it's better for you. It falls more in line with your moral compass, where you are dealing with, okay, just doing what is fair. But I will admit that there are times when you have to deal with something that goes so far left of your moral compass. And for that one, it is to every individual. I can't speak for somebody else. Genuinely, it is to every individual. I've seen people stand in things that I definitely wouldn't do myself. But in the end, it is to every individual and how every individual chooses to manage. So that's where the noble profession saying comes from.
All right. In fact, at the end, it is to every individual and how they choose to manage their moral compass and things. We would have wanted to go on and on and on, but time is not on our side. So now we're going to cut it short. I'm going to ask our brother Winner his final words on this whole thing.
I think I personally have also learnt, aside my point of view on the issue. So I would say that first and foremost, we all have our individual moral compasses, which are mostly guided by society, upbringing, various factors. However, it's also important to be, give or take, for lack of a better term, open. Don't be, generally I think in this life, if you are too this is how we do things over here, you're going to lose out a lot. So moral compass is not a fixed thing, and so we must be open to adjustments as long as the adjustments augur well for the general good of everyone. You're not infringing on someone else's rights, as long as you're not tampering someone else's issues. And the society is evolving. Things that were the best things 10 years ago, they are normal these days, or even archaic. So it's important that moral compass, we should have in mind that have your values, etc., but don't be so fixated. Be open to change, and it would help in the long run.
Okay. Have your values, don't be so fixated, is what our brother says as his closing remarks. Now let's hear from the missionary. The last word,
so from the religious perspective, from the perspective of Islam and the Quran, morality is not just about doing good, avoiding wrong. It transcends beyond that. And what exactly is morality? Morality, according to religion, according to the Quran specifically, is that you are doing it for the sake of God first and for the sake of others. When you do something, sometimes even if an individual is to do a good, like give money to somebody, that is something your moral compass would pass you on. But when you do that for the sake of show off, so that people say this guy is a good guy, if you do it only for that reason, it won't qualify as immoral. But if you're doing it because God says we should do that, you're doing it for the pleasure of God, then the good will sink down into our hearts. And that is when it satisfies the definition of morality as far as religion is concerned. So that is all we should look out for. And like I said, we should introspect always to see the good that we did. Did it satisfy these conditions? Did we just do it for doing sake, or we did it for the sake of God, who is the supreme overseer of everything we do?
All right. Let us see what we do and see whether we did it for ourselves or we did it for God Almighty. And if we did, then it would give us some sort of tranquility and some sort of comfort in the heart. I believe you have learned so much, as I have learned in the studio. Mind you, in our studio audience, there were some very learned colleagues too. You could see somewhere when some of these statements were going around. But all the same, all in all, we have come to the end of the program. Thank you for staying with us, and we hope you keep on staying here so that in the near future you would see more of such programs. Once again, I'm very grateful to my panelists, those who helped with the discussions, and the studio audience too. I'm very grateful to you all. May God Almighty be with you, may He be with us, and until we meet again, may the peace and blessings of God be with us all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Yami bieni ho, Jese Allah. Yami bieni ho, Jese Allah. Yami bieni ho, Jese Allah. Muhammad, Yami smafo, La ilaha illallah.